Yeah, how quickly then can assessors get into those areas and really start looking at the extent of the damage?
Well, we've already got a group of assessors that are on the ground in most of those areas, in Taree, Port Macquarie, and the like. What we'll be doing is over the weekend, as the claims come in, start to draw in the interstate workforces. So we've got people on standby out of Brisbane and other states that are able to come here. Unfortunately, there is quite a workforce that's been deployed since January, starting with the floods up in Ingham. They were busy then with Tropical Cyclone Alfred. Some have gone into Western Queensland. But again, we're seeing yet another significant rain event on the coast, and we'll be able to bring those workforces south and into that mid-north coast region to start helping.
Yeah, you mentioned Taree. It has been cut off for a few days, and I think roads are starting to reopen there. But just looking at the council, it seems they decided building a flood levy in the CBD area was not feasible last year due to costs, and the benefits apparently were not significant to either commercial or residential properties. Does that seem a little bit surprising after all the floods in 2022, particularly around Lismore?
Well, it would be really good to have a conversation with the council to understand how they got to that decision. They spent a lot of money on a flood study. The flood study recommended a levy that would protect the CBD. I think this is the case across the East Coast, where you have a lot of these significant regional centres that were built a couple of hundred years ago, probably in the wrong location, right next to rivers, that need better flood defences. And we've really got to start taking a much longer term. This has been a record flood level for Taree. So we've smashed all previous records again. The water's incurred into the CBD. I would much rather see those coffee shops, the clothing stores, the hardware stores, and the other things in the main street that have all gone under all that horrible muddy water. I would rather see them protected. It just means that the businesses can get back on their feet a lot faster. So it would be really good to understand what the Mid-Coast Council were thinking when they decided not to proceed with building this levy, albeit that was only in September. It probably wouldn't have been built for this event. But I think this is a huge wake-up call for that community to say, we've got to be able to flood-proof this town. If they don't do it, moving forward, insurance premiums are just going to become simply unaffordable for people in that area.
Yeah, so more broadly, what is the insurance sector? What have they learned from the 2022 floods on the east coast of Australia?
Well, we're learning that these events are breaking all records and that we end up with very large claim surges. And so insurers are needing to now build workforces to be able to cope with that. We have got mobilised teams that come in from across the country to be able to assist, but all of that costs money. And the issue here is that the risk is still there. Flood is our most expensive peril. There's about 220,000 homes that are sitting in this type of flood risk that we're seeing right at the moment up and down the East Coast. And I think for a number of those homes, we've got to do a better job of planning what's going to happen to protect them into the future. Now, at the moment, it is taking councils about 10 years from the day they start a flood study right through to the point at which they decide to do something about that flood study. 10 years is way too long. In the next 10 years, Taree will flood another 3 times on the current estimates. So we've got to get on and be serious about flood defences in this country.
Andrew Hall, Chief Executive of the Insurance Council of Australia, thanks for coming on the show this afternoon.
Thank you, Ed.